court in New York for his hush money trial. There, he's facing 34 felony counts of falsifying business records, and witnesses against him may include Stormy Daniels, Michael Cohen, and one-time Trump insider Hope Hicks. Joining us now, Joyce Vance, former U.S. attorney, now University of Alabama professor of law and MSNBC legal analyst, as well as, in all her spare time, co-host of the Sisters-in-Law podcast. Joyce, my friend, it's such a treat to have you because you're the person I often turn to explain this stuff. Trump has tried to delay everything in this hush money trial. He lost on the gag order, on immunity, on trying to get Stormy Daniels information from NBC, on trying to get the judge recused, but he's trying to do that again. Why is he trying to delay this trial so much, or is it just all of them?
You know, delay is a desperation strategy. It's what you do when you don't really have a good legal strategy and you're uncomfortable with what you expect the outcome of the trial will be. You see defendants from time to time who will do just about anything to keep a trial from taking place. I suspect we have not seen the last of Trump's delay tactics yet.
Yeah, I think you're probably right there. But the other thing, too, that's going to be fascinating is watching the way that testimony from a witness like Hope Hicks, who we all know from covering Trump world was always inside the rooms where whatever was happening. How's that going to hit Trump?
You know, it's tough to know what role she'll play here and whether she is a voluntary cooperating witness, which seems very unlikely, or whether she will testify to facts that she has previously talked about since she was around, for instance, around the time when checks to Michael Cohen were being written. So I think she is one of the witnesses that we'll wait and see just how robust her testimony is. Yeah. I'm very interested in seeing how Trump responds, for instance, when Michael Cohen or Stormy Daniels takes the witness stand. This is a judge who has tight control of his courtroom. He will not permit Trump certainly to engage in any outbursts, and I suspect he'll have limited tolerance for eye rolling or other gestures intended for the jury.
Yeah, and certainly we've seen the way that Trump has acted in court in the past. I want to switch gears a little bit to another case, the DOJ's classified documents case, because Trump is now arguing there for delays after rulings on motions that were filed in the case, basically arguing against a speedy trial. Do any of the arguments that he's making here hold water, though?
So this case is a little bit different. His arguments are not particularly meritorious. Some of the motions that we're seeing the judge delay over right now are motions that really should have been dismissed out of hand as a legal matter. For instance, this Presidential Records Act motion. But the judge here has been willing to entertain not just delay, but Trump's specious sorts of legal arguments, and it's very difficult to predict how this one will turn out.
I want to read to you what former Judge Nancy Gertner said about the judge we're talking about here, Judge Aileen Cannon. She said, quote, "It's clear she's going in a ridiculous direction. I think they need to stop playing games and move to disqualify her." The they here she's talking about is Jack Smith. Our friend Katie Fang raised this idea to me yesterday of Judge Cannon as sort of a shadow defense attorney. What do you think, and are you in the camp of Jack Smith should be moving to get her off this case sooner rather than later?
Well, Judge Gertner and I have been in agreement on this one from a long time. I think the best strategy is a motion to recuse. You know, you'll see legal analysts differ right now. Katie Fang and I usually are very much in agreement on our views. And the problem here is less that the legal analysts don't agree. It's more that this judge is behaving in a way that's so far outside the realm of how judges are supposed to proceed that it's left everyone scratching their head and looking for a strategy. But I think at this point, DOJ ought to go ahead and file a motion to recuse the judge. She's obligated to respond to that in writing if she denies it. And then Jack Smith will be able to take it to the 11th Circuit. You know, recusal is difficult for prosecutors. It's not something we do frequently. It requires the approval of the Solicitor General. But this is a judge who's made repeated rulings that the 11th Circuit hasn't just said were wrong. They've said they were just in a different universe. And I think this is the right sort of case, and this is the moment where Jack Smith needs to do that. He cannot go to trial in front of this judge. It's far too risky.
Yeah, Joyce, it's hard to argue with the refs, and certainly when time is on the clock, because you've got to start this case before November, it makes it that much harder. I've got one last question for you about one of the other legal threads we're following. The day after the hush money trial starts here in New York, the Supreme Court will hear an obstruction case related to Trump's charges in D.C. 10 days later, the Supreme Court will hear Trump's immunity claims. The hush money case then wraps at the end of the month. Of May specifically. Supreme Court rulings then might come in June. Can I just ask a point of order on all of this? Is it for sure that we get that immunity ruling at the end of the court's term? And then can that DOJ case, which is in regards to January 6th, immediately go forward? I mean, I'm just thinking about that hard November deadline.
Yeah, so look, there's a very optimistic scenario here, which is one where the Supreme Court is prepared to rule on immunity within days following argument. They certainly were not quick to get this case teed up. There's no reason to believe that they'll be that fast, but they can move very quickly when they want to. Really, this case will be ripe for a decision any time after it has been argued all the way up until the end of this term of the Supreme Court, which is last week of June, maybe first couple of days of July. And the real problem is that once that decision comes back down, assuming the government wins, and I think everyone is assuming that the government will win because it's hard to imagine a world where a former president has total immunity. But Judge Cannon has promised Trump about 90 days to finish the discovery process before the case goes to trial. So we'll be knocking right on that period of time where early voting has already started.
Yeah, Joyce, we're coming up against an election calendar and all of these court proceedings. Those things are so intertwined. Thank you for trying to at least untangle them a little bit for us. I appreciate your time today.
Good to see you.
You too.